How to plant trees in northern Manitoba. When selecting a tree to plant, whether for fruit production, for shade, as an ornamental, or for any other reason, one of the most important considerations is whether the tree will survive our northern Manitoba conditions. The best way to determine this is to check the label that's included with or attached to the tree. Make sure that it is rated as hardy for Zone 1 or Zone 2, or there may also be cold hardiness information on the tag that's included with the tree. Make sure this temperature is low enough so the tree can survive northern Manitoba winter temperatures. As you can see by the label on this tree, this is a haskap tree, and the label that's attached to it says it is cold hardy to minus 45 degrees Celsius. You can also see that there's a lot of really good information on that label as far as how to space that tree if you're planting more than one, water usage, whether it needs to be fertilized, general care considerations, and so on. Always check these labels because they have some really, really good, useful information included on those tree labels. So now that you've selected the tree that you want to plant and you know that it's going to survive our northern Manitoba conditions, you will need some other supplies so that you can plant that tree. You are going to need a shovel, and a round mouth shovel seems to work the best for digging. And a round mouth shovel, as you can see in the picture on the left, it's round on the bottom, and that's just easier to dig with when it's round like that. You will need a watering pail or watering jug, and of course some water in that pail or watering jug. Now, depending on the site where you're planting your tree, there may be some additional supplies that may come in handy. Maybe a garden hoe would be handy for digging or for cutting through some of the weeds and so on that's in your planting site. Perhaps a garden rake for leveling out the site where you're planting. And you may need some additional soil. If when you're digging up the hole for your tree, there are some very large clumps and they're very, very difficult to break down, it's going to be difficult for you to have any loose soil that comes out of the hole to put back in with your tree. So sometimes having some additional soil is just handier than trying to break down those big lumps. So site selection and preparation. When you're picking where you want to plant your trees in full sun on well-drained soil that is located on high ground. Try to keep your new trees out of the water where there's going to be water sitting for a period of time. They don't really like their roots sitting in water for very long. Remove all weeds, grass, other tree roots, large stones, etc. from the planting site, as is being demonstrated in the attached video. Plant your tree where it's not going to be in the way. For snow clearing, for vehicle travel, where you might park vehicles in the winter, snowmobile trails, etc. You don't want some vehicles or skidoos coming along in the winter and damaging your tree that you've just planted. Also, make sure that there's lots of room around your tree because it's going to grow and it's going to get bigger. So make sure that you've allowed enough room around your tree so that it is not going to be crowded. Dig a hole where you're going to plant your tree 2 times wider and slightly deeper than the container with the tree. A nice big deep hole with lots of room for your tree to expand and for the roots to grow will be what you want to be, the size of the hole you want it to be. Break up any clumps of soil. As I mentioned earlier, depending on the soil that you're putting your tree into, those clumps might be quite large and difficult to break up. So it may be that you will be putting that additional soil that you brought and put that back in the hole instead of those big clumps. You want to be putting your tree into the hole so that the tree root ball sits at or just below the soil surface. And you can check this by setting the container and the tree temporarily back into the hole, as in the picture on the screen. Of special note, if you are planting bare rootstock, and those are trees that are not in a container, temporarily put the tree in a container or pail of water overnight and while you're planting so that it doesn't dry out. Also, when digging the hole, dig it large enough to include the roots on these bare rootstock trees. Remove the tree from the container and gently loosen the roots, as is shown in the video. Place the tree in the hole with the root ball at or just below the soil surface, keeping the tree straight and upright. You might need extra help with this step, as sometimes if you're planting a taller tree, as say an apple tree tends to be, it can be more difficult to keep the tree straight, so you might need additional help with that as you tamp the soil down around the tree. Pack the soil again and water. Water your tree daily for the first 2 weeks. If the soil has settled, add more soil around the tree. Water your tree at least once a week until fall, and if we're experiencing very hot and dry weather, water it more often. And you want to be doing this until the tree is well established. Taking extra care of your tree in the first year will increase the chance of it getting established and growing faster and producing more. Protect the tree from damage from pets or wildlife such as deer or rabbits with a fence or a barricade. The tree may also need staking to keep it upright, as was shown in this attached video. This will protect it from wind damage and keep the tree straight and tall. A post, a piece of lath, a solid tree branch can be pounded into the ground next to the tree and then tied to the stake to protect the tree from wind and to keep it upright until it becomes well rooted. You want to be keeping grass and weeds away from your tree. Newly planted trees do not like the competition for water or nutrients and will really stunt the growth of your tree. So take extra care and remove grass and weeds for the next couple of years, and water your tree at least twice a month during the summer, and you should have a fast-growing, producing tree in your yard. If you're looking for additional resources, check out the Manitoba government website. There are a number of resources that are specific for our Northern Manitoba conditions, and they are housed under the Indigenous and Northern Relations website. There is a listing there of resources that are specific for our Northern Manitoba conditions. They're being added to all the time. Or you can Google Northern Healthy Foods Initiative resources, and you'll see the Indigenous and Northern Relations website pop up, and you can track down these resources that way.